The night was heavy with rain, the streets shining with water like black glass. An alien mother walked slowly through the storm, her arms wrapped around her child. The little one was burning with fever. Every breath a shallow cry. Her thin clothes were soaked, her skin pale and trembling, but she did not stop. She had only one hope left. The hospital at the edge of the human city. The building glowed with white lights, tall and proud against the night sky. Inside, machines hummed, doctors hurried, and nurses whispered. It was a place of healing, a place where lives were saved. At least that was what she had always believed. She clutched her child closer and stepped into the bright lobby. Water dripped from her clothes onto the clean floor. The receptionist looked up, her human eyes narrowing. "Name?" The woman asked sharply. The alien mother's voice shook. "Please, my child, she is very sick, she cannot breathe. Please help her." Her words were soft, but her desperation filled the air. The receptionist's eyes moved from the mother's trembling hands to the small alien child wheezing in her arms. She pressed her lips tight. "Wait here," she said coldly. Minutes stretched like hours as the child coughed weakly. Finally, 2 doctors walked over, their faces stiff. One shook his head the moment he saw her. "This is a human hospital," he said, voice like steel. "We cannot treat her kind." The alien mother's heart sank. "But she is just a child. Please, I will work, I will pay. Anything." Her voice broke as tears mixed with the rain on her face. The child whimpered, small fingers clutching her mother's collar. The second doctor raised his hand as if to end the conversation. "Take her to your people. This is not our responsibility. Not our problem," the receptionist added. Turning away, the alien mother gasped. "You cannot, she will die." But the guards were already walking toward her. Strong hands pushed her gently but firmly toward the door. Her knees nearly gave out as she stumbled into the rain once more. The hospital doors shut behind her with a loud hiss. The light vanished, leaving her in darkness again. Her tears blended with the storm, her cries lost to the thunder. The child in her arms coughed again. A harsh, painful sound. "Hold on, little one. Hold on," she whispered. She did not know where to go. No one wanted her, no one wanted them. Her people were gone, scattered after the war. The city was filled with humans who barely looked at her. Some glared, some muttered insults under their breath, and yet she kept walking, her bare feet splashing through puddles. Each step felt heavier than the last. But she could not stop, not while her child still breathed behind her, unseen by all. A man stood in the hospital hallway. He wore plain clothes, his hands calloused from years of work. A janitor sweeping floors no one noticed. He had watched the whole scene quietly. His broom rested against the wall as his eyes followed the alien mother. Something twisted inside him. He had seen this before, different faces, different voices, but the same cruelty. He remembered his own childhood, how his mother had begged for help in another city, how people had turned away because they were poor. His fists tightened around the handle of the broom. The guards laughed as they walked back inside. The doctors whispered as if nothing had happened. And yet his eyes stayed on the door where she had gone. The rain outside looked colder, darker, heavier. He should not care, he told himself. She was just another alien, it was not his problem. And yet her face haunted him, her broken voice, her desperate eyes, he could not shake them away. The janitor slowly stepped outside. The storm slapped against his face. He looked down the empty street and saw her small figure. She was barely more than a shadow carrying another shadow. But he knew where she was going. Nowhere. The world had already decided her fate. The hospital had turned her away. The city would never take her in. The storm would swallow her before the night was done. But the man's feet began to move. One step, then another, his breath came hard. Not from the rain, but from the weight of choice. He followed her into the darkness. Not as a doctor, not as a soldier, not as anyone important, but as a human who could not look away any longer. The alien mother did not know yet. She thought she was alone. She thought the world had forgotten her. But footsteps followed in the rain, and with them, the first spark of a story no one would ever forget. The rain did not stop. It fell harder, cold drops hitting the ground like tiny stones. The alien mother walked with slow, weak steps, her child growing heavier in her arms. Her strength was leaving her, but her fear was stronger. Fear that the little one's breathing would stop before dawn. Fear that she would collapse with no one to lift her again. She turned into a narrow alley, hoping to find shelter from the storm. The walls dripped with water. Rats moved between the trash bins. She sank to her knees near a broken crate, holding her child close, rocking gently, whispering, "Stay with me, my star. Stay with me." The child coughed again, each sound cutting her heart deeper. Her body shook from cold and hunger. Her own breath came sharp and fast. She thought of her lost husband, her ruined home, and she whispered to herself, "Why did I bring you here? Why did I think they would help us?" At that moment, soft footsteps echoed at the mouth of the alley. She stiffened, her heart racing. Her people had been hunted before. Humans who hated them would sometimes throw stones. She pulled her child tighter, shielding her small body with her own. "Go away," she said weakly, her voice trembling but firm. But the footsteps did not stop. They came closer. A shadow grew larger against the wet walls. And then a man stepped into the dim light, his clothes simple, wet with rain. His hair stuck to his forehead. It was the janitor, the one she had seen inside the hospital. He paused a few steps away, his chest rising and falling. His hands were empty, no weapon, no threat, only a strange look on his face, half anger, half sorrow. The alien mother narrowed her eyes, ready to push him away with words. But he only said softly, "You cannot stay here. The rain will kill her," her breath caught. "Why do you care?" she whispered bitterly. "No one else does." The man looked down at the ground, the puddles shining under weak street lamps. "I care because I know what it feels like to be turned away." His voice was quiet, but every word carried weight. She shook her head, clutching her child tighter. "You are human. You can never know." He stepped closer, kneeling in the mud so his eyes met hers. "When I was a boy, my mother begged for help too. They told her no because she had nothing to give, and I almost died that night." The alien mother blinked, rain and tears mixing on her face. She wanted to hate him, to push him away. But his eyes were not cold like the doctor's. They held something she had not seen in a long time, memory of pain. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small cloth. "Holding it out here," he said gently. "Wrap her head. Keep her warm." Her hands trembled as she looked at it. The cloth was rough, old, not much, but it was the first gift anyone had offered her since her world had ended. Slowly, she took it and wrapped it around the child's forehead. The janitor stood, wiping water from his face. "My home is not far," he said. "It is not much, but it is dry, and I have some medicine. Food, maybe." The alien mother shook her head quickly. "No, I cannot trust you. I cannot walk into a trap." He nodded slowly, as if he expected her answer. "You don't have to trust me yet," he said, "but if you stay here, she will not make it to morning." His words cut through the night. The mother looked down at her child's pale face, the small chest rising unevenly. Her lips trembled, torn between fear and hope. Every lesson of survival told her not to trust a stranger, especially not a human. But the cough of her child made the choice for her. With a shaky voice, she whispered, "If you hurt her, I will kill you." The janitor almost smiled, not from joy but from respect. "That is how a mother should speak," he said. He turned, walking ahead into the storm, looking back once to see if she followed. And slowly clutching her child, she rose to her feet. The alley seemed darker as she left it, the street empty except for the sound of rain. Her legs ached, her arms screamed with pain, but the man's steady steps gave her something to hold on to. Not faith, not yet, just a direction. They walked through narrow roads, past closed shops and silent windows. No one came out to see them, no one cared. But the alien mother felt a small spark inside, a thought she had buried long ago. What if not all humans were the same? The janitor finally stopped at a small door in a crumbling building. He pushed it open, the hinges squeaking loudly. Warm air drifted out, carrying the faint smell of bread and wood smoke. "Come inside," he said, stepping back. His voice steady but soft, like someone inviting family. The alien mother hesitated, her heart pounding. Her child whimpered again, weak and tired, and with one deep breath, she stepped through the doorway, unknowing that her world was about to change forever. The door closed behind them with a soft creak. Shutting out the storm, the alien mother stood frozen, clutching her child tightly against her chest. She did not trust this place. The walls were cracked, the roof leaked in one corner. The air smelled of old wood and smoke. It was no palace, no safe house, just a poor man's shelter. The janitor lit a small lamp, the yellow glow filling the room. It revealed a narrow bed, a broken chair, and shelves filled with old tins of food in the corner. A tiny fire burned weakly in a metal barrel. He walked to it and stirred the coals until sparks jumped into the air. The warmth spread slowly, chasing away the icy grip of the rain. The alien mother's knees shook. Her wet clothes clung to her body. Her hair stuck against her face. The child in her arms gave a faint cough. The janitor pointed to the bed. "Lay her down there." "The blankets are old but clean," he said softly. She narrowed her eyes, her voice sharp. "Why are you doing this?" "What do you want from us?" Her words cut through the small room like a blade. The man stopped, looking at her carefully. "I want nothing," he said simply. "Only to help." But she did not believe him. Not yet. Everywhere she had gone, people wanted something. Food, labor, money, or worse, her kind had always paid a price for kindness. Her arms tightened around her child as if someone might rip her away. The janitor did not argue. Instead, he opened a wooden box under his bed and pulled out a small bottle. "This is all I have," he said, kneeling by the fire. "Old medicine, but it still works for fever." He poured some liquid into a cracked cup and warmed it by the flames. The alien mother's eyes followed every move, her muscles ready to spring, her heart beating hard. If this was poison, if this was a trick, she would rather die with her child in her arms than let a stranger harm her. But when the smell rose from the cup, it was bitter but familiar. The janitor walked back slowly. He did not reach for the child. He did not force the cup into her hands. He only set it on the chair beside her. "When you are ready," he said. "Give her a sip." Then he stepped back, keeping distance, giving her space. She stared at the steaming cup, her lips pressed tight. Her child whimpered, tiny fingers curling weakly against her chest. Her heart broke with every sound. Finally, with trembling hands, she dipped her finger into the medicine, touched it to her lips. Bitter, yes, but safe. With a deep breath, she tilted the cup and held it to her child's mouth. The little one coughed but swallowed a drop. Then another. The warmth spread slowly into her small body. Her breathing, though weak, grew steadier. The alien mother gasped, her tears falling fast. The janitor's shoulders relaxed. He said nothing, but he turned to the fire, adding more wood. The crackle filled the silence. The alien mother lowered her child gently onto the bed. She stood beside her, her eyes never leaving the sleeping face. Minutes stretched. The child's color returned faintly. Her chest rose and fell with softer rhythm. The alien mother's body sagged with relief. For the first time in many days, hope touched her heart. But her eyes lifted back to the man. He was sitting near the fire, rubbing his hands for warmth. His clothes were wet, his face tired. He looked no different from any poor worker in the city. Yet he had done what the hospital refused, she whispered almost to herself. "You risk much for us." He looked at her, his eyes calm. "I risk nothing compared to what you carry," he answered. "Your child is worth more than my safety." The word stunned her. No human had spoken like that to her before. Her throat tightened. She wanted to ask him why, but her pride held her tongue. Instead, she said coldly, "If anyone finds out, they will come for you." He nodded, his voice steady. "I know." He leaned back against the wall, closing his eyes briefly. But I could not watch her die outside. The fire crackled, filling the silence again. The alien mother sat by the bed, one hand resting on her child's chest. Her mind battled between fear and gratitude. Trust was dangerous, she told herself. But something about this man's quiet strength broke through her walls. She whispered so softly, even she barely heard it. "Thank you." The janitor opened his eyes. He did not smile, but he nodded once. "As long as I am here, you are safe," he said. The words carried a weight she could not measure. And in that tiny room with storm raging outside, a fragile bond began to form. Neither of them knew what tomorrow would bring. Neither of them knew that danger was already waiting. But in that moment they had something rare, a human, an alien and a sick child, all held together by the warmth of a small fire in the dark. The storm outside softened by dawn, but inside the little room the air was heavy. The alien mother had not slept all night. Her eyes fixed on her child's face. The girl's fever had lowered a little after the bitter medicine. Her breathing steadier, but her body still fragile and weak. Every rise and fall of her chest was a battle the mother feared to lose. The janitor woke early, his steps quiet as he moved about the room. He pulled an old kettle from the shelf and filled it with water. The smell of boiled herbs soon drifted through the air. The alien mother turned sharply, suspicious again. "What is that?" she asked, her voice low. He looked at her calmly. "Tea and broth," he said. "It will help her stay warm." The alien mother frowned. Her people did not drink human tea, but the steam carried a comfort she could not deny. He poured the hot liquid into 2 chipped cups. He set one near her and sipped from his own. Then he smiled faintly. "See? Not poison." For the first time her lips twitched almost into a smile. Almost, but not yet. Her stomach growled loudly, and she flushed with shame. The janitor pretended not to notice. Instead, he reached for a small loaf of bread wrapped in cloth. He broke it carefully, half for her, half for himself, and placed a small piece near the child's mouth. The alien mother hesitated, but when the little one stirred, she soaked the bread in the broth and pressed it gently to her lips. The child swallowed slowly, weak but alive. The mother's chest loosened with relief. For the first time in days, food was not a dream but real. The janitor watched silently, his hands folded. He knew she still doubted him, but he also knew trust was not given in one night. Trust was built with actions, and every sip, every bite, was a stone in the bridge he was trying to build. After the child fell into light sleep, the mother finally turned to him. Her eyes sharp, her voice steady. "Why are you poor? You help me like no one else, but they—" Her words shook with anger. "They live in tall houses, with bright halls, and they turn me away." The janitor's jaw tightened. "They see money, not people," he said. "I clean their floors, I hear their laughter. But they don't even know my name." He looked at the child, sleeping with one hand curled by her face. "But maybe I don't need them to know." The alien mother studied him. His hands scarred, his clothes worn. He was not rich, not powerful, but his words carried something she had almost forgotten. Dignity. Her heart stirred with conflict. Could this man, so ordinary, be the one to stand when no one else did? She lowered her gaze, whispering, "If she lives, I will owe you everything." The janitor shook his head firmly. "You owe me nothing," he said, his voice calm but strong. "I do this because it is right." The words struck her like a blow. Not because they were cruel, but because they were too kind. And kindness to her was the most dangerous gift. Suddenly, a knock rattled the door, sharp and loud. The alien mother jumped, her arms flying protectively around her child. The janitor's face darkened. He pressed a finger to his lips. The knock came again, harder this time. A voice shouted, "Open up! We saw her! You're hiding aliens in there!" The mother's blood froze, her heart pounded so loud she thought it would wake the child. The janitor moved quickly, covering the lamp with a cloth. The room sank into dim shadows. He whispered, "Stay quiet. Don't move." The pounding continued, voices outside muttering angrily. The janitor stepped to the door, his shoulders tense, but he did not open it. Instead, he shouted back, his voice rough, "No one here but me. Go bother someone else." There was silence for a long, painful moment. Then the footsteps faded, the angry voices drifting away into the storm. The mother collapsed against the bed, her whole body shaking. Tears ran down her face as she pressed her lips to her child's hair. "They will come back," she whispered. "They always come back." The janitor closed the door softly, his expression grim. "Yes," he said, "but next time, we will be ready." She looked at him with wide, fearful eyes. "We," she repeated, and he answered simply, "Family is not always born. Sometimes it's chosen." The words lingered in the small room like fire. The alien mother looked at her child, looked at the man who had given them food, medicine, and protection, and though fear still sat heavy in her chest, something else began to grow beside it. Hope the storm outside had not ended. The city was still cruel, but inside that broken house, an alien mother, her child, and a poor human janitor sat together, bound by a choice that would change all their lives forever. The house was quiet again after the angry voices faded. Only the crackle of the small fire filled the silence. The alien mother sat close to her child, one hand brushing gently over the little girl's damp hair. Her chest still rose and fell, uneven but alive. The janitor sat across the room, his back against the wall, his eyes on the fire. He did not speak for a long time, but his silence was not heavy like the hospital's silence. It was patient waiting, leaving space for her to breathe. Finally, she broke it with a whisper. "They will not stop," she said. "They will come again with more men, with more hate." Her voice trembled, not from fear for herself, but from fear for the little life sleeping beside her. The janitor nodded slowly. "I know," he said, "but I will not let them take her." His words were steady, as if he had already made a promise to the stars themselves. Her eyes narrowed, searching his face. "Why?" she asked, her voice cracking. "You don't even know us. Why risk your life for strangers?" The janitor looked down at his hands, calloused and scarred. He rubbed them together as if warming them against memories. "Because once my mother was turned away too," he said softly. The alien mother leaned closer, her eyes caught by the weight of his voice. "She carried me when I was sick," he continued. "She begged the rich men for help, begged the healers, but no one listened. They said she had nothing to pay, so she sat with me on the street, holding me like you hold her now." His throat tightened, but he forced the words out. "She kept me warm with her body, fed me with nothing but love, and somehow I lived. But she didn't. The sickness took her because she gave everything to me." His jaw clenched, his eyes shining in the firelight. The alien mother's breath caught. Her heart ached as if his pain had become her own. Slowly, she lowered her gaze, her fingers brushing her child's cheek. "I understand," she whispered. "I lost him too." "My mate." The janitor lifted his head. Silent but listening, her voice broke as she spoke. "We were farmers, far from the cities. We had nothing but our land, our animals, and the hope of raising her safe." Her tears glistened in the dim firelight. "When the war came, everything burned," she said. "They called us enemies, though we never fought. They dragged him away in chains. I never saw him again. Only heard the shots in the distance." Her body shook as if the memory lived inside her still. The janitor's eyes lowered. He knew the cruelty of war, but hearing it in her broken voice made it real. The alien mother continued, her words spilling like a wound torn open. "They left us with nothing. I begged, I stole, I hid, but the sickness found her." She looked at the child, her tears falling on the thin blanket. "I carried her to the hospital because I thought maybe humans were better than soldiers, but they turned me away like I was less than dirt." Her voice hardened, bitter and sharp. The janitor leaned forward, his voice low but firm. "You are not dirt. You are a mother. And that means more than anything." The alien mother looked at him, startled. The firelight danced across his face, showing the truth in his eyes. Her lips trembled, and for a moment she could not find words. The silence between them changed, no longer cold, no longer full of suspicion. It was heavy with understanding, two different lives, but bound by the same wound. The wound of being ignored, the wound of loss. The child stirred in her sleep, coughing weakly. The alien mother brushed her forehead gently, then whispered, "She is all I have left." The janitor's voice softened. "Then she is all I will protect." The alien mother blinked, her heart pounding. He spoke as if he was already part of their story, as if he had chosen it, without asking for anything in return. She wanted to protest, to say no, but the words refused to come instead. Her hand shook as she reached for the cup of broth. She held it toward him. "Here," she said softly. "Eat too." It was a small gesture, but it carried more weight than gold. It was the first sign of trust, fragile but real. The janitor took the cup, his eyes meeting hers. "Thank you," he said. The fire crackled louder as if sealing their silent pact. Outside, the storm still rumbled faintly, but inside something new had begun to grow. For the first time, the alien mother did not feel completely alone. For the first time, the janitor did not feel invisible. Between them a bond was forming, one that neither war nor hate could erase, a bond that made the word family feel alive again. The morning light crept weakly through the cracks in the wooden wall. The storm had passed, but the city outside was restless. Voices echoed in the streets. Angry and sharp, the alien mother stirred, her eyes opening with fear before memory caught up. She saw her child still breathing, sleeping quietly under the rough blanket. Her chest loosened just a little. She whispered a silent prayer in her language, then turned her gaze toward the man who had saved them. The janitor was already awake. Standing by the window, his eyes were hard, his jaw tight. "What is it?" she asked quietly. He did not turn, only listened. "There are whispers outside," he said. "They know someone took you in. They think it was me." His voice was steady, but his hands clenched at his sides. The alien mother's body went cold. Her mind raced with thoughts of chains, with memories of soldiers. "They will come," she whispered, clutching her child closer, her heart a drum of panic inside her chest. "Then let them come. the janitor said firmly. He turned to face her, his eyes calm but fierce. I won't hand you over. Her throat tightened, her voice breaking. You don't understand. Humans protect their own first. If they find out, he cut her off gently. I made my choice. You're not alone anymore. The alien mother's lips trembled. The words struck deep, too deep. Before she could answer, a loud knock shook the door. Bang! Bang, bang! The child stirred. Whimpering at the noise, the mother froze, her arms tightening around the little girl. The janitor placed a finger to his lips. Motioning for silence, he stepped toward the door. His shoulders straight, voices rose outside. Loud, angry, cruel. Open up. We know you're hiding filth in there. The mother's breath came fast. Her body shook as memories clawed back. Soldiers tearing into her home, her mate dragged away. Tears filled her eyes as she whispered, They will take her. They will kill us both. The janitor's hand touched the door, but he did not open it. Instead, he shouted back, his voice carrying across the street. There's no one here but me. Get lost before I call the watch. Laughter erupted outside, harsh and mocking. You? A janitor calling the watch? One voice sneered. You're nothing. And if you lie for them, you'll hang with them. The alien mother's heart nearly stopped. Her body leaned forward, ready to beg, ready to plead for mercy. But the janitor did not flinch. His voice thundered through the door. Come in then. See if you find anyone worth your hate. Silence. The voices outside muttered, then faded slowly down the street. The mother sagged against the wall, clutching her child tightly. Her tears ran freely, dripping onto the blanket. Her body shook with relief and fear mixed together. The janitor stepped back from the door. His face pale, sweat on his brow, but his eyes burned like fire. They will be back, he said quietly. This was only a warning. The mother looked at him, her eyes wide. You could have handed us over, she whispered. You could have opened the door and they would have left you alone. His voice broke like iron against stone. I will never do that. Not to you. Not to her. The child stirred, her small voice weak. Ma, she murmured. The alien mother kissed her forehead, whispering soothing words. Then she looked back at the janitor. Her lips trembled as she said softly, Why? The man sighed, his shoulders slumping. Because I remember standing in the rain with no one to help me. I remember how it feels when the world looks at you and sees nothing. He looked at the child, then back at her mother. And I will never let anyone feel that if I can stop it. The mother's throat closed with emotion. She wanted to argue, to say he was foolish. But her heart betrayed her. Her heart whispered that maybe, just maybe, she had found a place she could belong. Her eyes blurred with tears as she whispered. You are risking everything, he nodded. Yes, but sometimes the right thing is worth everything. The fire cracked softly in the silence that followed. The child shifted in her sleep, her breathing more steady than before. Her small hand slipped from the blanket and brushed against the janitor's arm. For a moment time stopped, the man froze, then smiled faintly. The alien mother's tears spilled over as she whispered, She has never touched anyone else like that since her father was taken. Her voice broke, but her eyes shone with fragile hope. Outside, the city prepared for another day of cruelty. But inside that broken house, a human and an alien mother shared something the world refused to give them. A fragile bond, a promise, and the first seeds of family. The day dragged on with silence heavy in the small house. The alien mother sat by her child, watching each breath carefully. The little girl's fever had lowered, her cheeks less pale. But danger still hung in the air like storm clouds. Every creak of the floor, every footstep outside made the mother's heart tighten. The janitor moved quietly. Preparing what little food he had, he said nothing. But his eyes kept darting toward the window. He knew they would return. Men fueled by hate never left things unfinished. He sharpened a small knife, his only weapon. His hand steady but tense, the mother noticed. You cannot fight them, she whispered. They are many. You will die for nothing. The janitor looked at her with calm eyes. For nothing. No, for you, for her, that is not nothing. Her throat tightened. Tears threatening. No one had ever spoken for her like that. She opened her mouth to protest again. But the sound of boots on the street froze her words. Voices grew louder, rough, angry, ready. Here. This is the house, a man shouted. Fists pounded against the door. Open up or we break it down. The child stirred, frightened cries slipping from her lips. The mother wrapped her arms around her, whispering, Don't be afraid. The janitor stood tall, his knife hidden behind his back. He whispered quickly to the mother, "Stay behind me. Whatever happens, do not let them take her." Her lips trembled as she nodded, her eyes burning with both fear and new strength. The door shuddered as it was kicked. Then it burst open with a crash. 3 men stormed inside, their faces twisted with hatred. One pointed at the bed, sneering, "There!
The alien filth and her brat."
The mother held her child tighter, her body trembling but unyielding. The janitor stepped forward, blocking the way. "You will not touch them," he said, his voice sharp like steel. The men laughed, one spitting on the floor.
"A janitor thinks he can protect scum?"
"Step aside or you'll join them." But the janitor did not move. He raised the knife just enough to show he would fight. "I have nothing, but I will give even that before I let you harm them." The men growled. Stepping closer, the mother cried out, "Please, she is only a child." Before the men could lunge, more voices rose from outside, neighbors, poor humans from the street, drawn by the noise, by the shouting, by the courage they had heard. One voice called, "Leave them alone." Another shouted, "He is one of us. If you touch him, you answer to all of us." The men inside turned, startled. Through the broken door, they saw a crowd forming. Not rich men, not guards, ordinary workers. Women, old men, children, all holding sticks, stones, anything they could find. Their eyes fierce, their voices united. The janitor's chest rose with hope. He had always been invisible, forgotten, but now, his stand had pulled others from the shadows. He shouted to the men, his voice echoing, "You hear them? You cannot fight all of us. Leave now." The intruders hesitated, anger flickering with fear. They cursed, spitting at the floor. "This isn't over," one snarled, backing away. But their feet carried them out the door. The crowd outside roared, their strength pushing the hate away. The alien mother gasped, clutching her child. Her tears flowed freely as she looked at the man standing tall. He turned back, his knife lowering, his eyes softening when they met hers. "It's over," he said gently. "You're safe now." She shook her head, her voice breaking. "No, we are safe because of you." The child reached out with weak arms, her tiny voice whispering, "Father." The word struck both of them like lightning. The janitor froze, his eyes wide. The mother's tears spilled faster, her lips trembling. "She has not called anyone that since he was taken," she whispered. The janitor's throat tightened, but he knelt by the bed. He touched the child's hand gently, his voice low. "Then I will be, if you'll let me." The alien mother covered her face with her hands, sobbing not with despair, but with something she thought she had lost forever. Hope. She lowered her hands and met his eyes. Through her tears, she whispered, "Family is not born. Family is chosen." The janitor nodded, his voice steady. "Then from today, you are mine. Both of you." The fire crackled. The storm outside had passed, and in that broken little house, something greater than war or hate had been born. Not blood, not duty, but family.